I couldn't find a better fit as I go up and down the roster. And it's just not because it's not always about just what the opportunity is. Sometimes it's about some of the intel that you might know. I know a lot of the players on New Orleans Saints. I feel like I know Sean Payton very well, and I've gotten a chance to know him through Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells has mentored Sean Payton. That's his guy. Bill Parcells got one guy in the NFL. It's not Bill Belichick. It's Sean Payton. So I appreciate what Sean has done, how he's developed as a coach, and what Sean does with offensive players. Sean does not waste their talent. If you look at all the players that he's gotten, how he's been able to utilize them, how he's been able to take advantage of their skill set, and who he turned Drew Brees into. Because I remember watching Drew Brees in college, in Purdue, dinking and dunking. You knew he was a smart quarterback, but you didn't think he was going to be Drew Brees in the NFL. What you really thought Drew Brees was going to be was probably a version of a Doug Flutie. Not necessarily running around, but an undersized guy, very, very competitive, not necessarily the prototype arm strength that you would want. But, man, Drew Brees, after that significant injury, turned himself into a workout warrior. And Sean Payton has been so creative that every year his team is one of the top offensive teams. Running the ball, passing the ball combination. They got a very good offensive line. So this is a great fit for Teddy. I spoke to the Jets 2 days ago. So I could see that the Jets love having Teddy around. And this was going to be a tough decision, even though we know, Nick, that Sam Darnold was going to take over the reins of that organization. But Teddy made it tough on them. Let's look how far Teddy had come in just a month of preseason. A guy who shattered his knee a couple years ago, wasn't good enough to beat out Case Keenum and Sam Bradford late in the season last year with the Minnesota Vikings, but was so impressive in the OTAs, so impressive in the mini camps that he would warrant a third-round pick. Like, man, it was amazing how they were able to rehab Teddy's image in the football world. To me, that was amazing. They were able to get a third-round pick for him yesterday, Nick.
This is the best situation as far as growing as a quarterback Teddy's ever been in, and it's not even close. Like, I think Zim's an excellent coach, but he's a defensive coach who, and the staff in Minnesota has done a really good job, but they're not Sean Payton.
Right.
And Todd Bowles is a defensive coach, and the staff in New York is, all their quarterback brain power is going to be spent on the blue chip prospect Sam Darnold. Now, part of me was a little disappointed when I saw he went to a team where he will not be competing for a starting spot. But
we just said that about Aaron Rodgers,
well,
too.
Sure, but at this point in this season, there wasn't going to be anywhere, really, that he was going to compete for a starting spot. There was the hope, not the hope, but the potential for injury, and that he could be traded and plug and play there. You don't look at any team like the Colts were last year, where you go into the year and like, man, they got nobody at quarterback. Maybe they're going to trade for someone and start them. And so for Teddy's development, I like this for him. And if Drew Brees is walking away in a year, then I like this for New Orleans as well as for Teddy. Once upon a time, when C mentioned, New Orleans took an injured quarterback that people had questions about, and he became Drew Brees. If they can, he was around the same age. Teddy's 25. I think Brees was 27.
Yes.
If they can take a quarterback that had been injured, people have questions about, and turn him into something greater than he'd been in Teddy Bridgewater's moving forward, that would be amazing. From the New Orleans side of things, if Brees isn't walking away, I don't totally understand this. I'm happy for Teddy, and I think he's a starting caliber player, but this is a guy you didn't think was good enough 6 months ago or 4 months ago to bring in via free agency for a couple $1 million guaranteed, and now you're giving up a third-round pick when you have no control over him after this season. So in that regards, I don't totally understand it from New Orleans, but I'm happy for Teddy.
Do you think there's some reasoning behind Drew Brees only signing a one-year deal with New Orleans? Because why else would a veteran quarterback like Drew Brees sign? Because he
Well, Brees has this year and next year.
Is it an option?
Brees, he signed a 2-year, $50 million deal for this past offseason. Remember, he was a quarterback hit true free agency. So he's tied to the Saints for this year and next year. Now, obviously, he can retire. Like, signing the contract doesn't mean you can't retire. And maybe the Saints look at it and say, We saw last year a backup quarterback win a Super Bowl. Like right now, our backup quarterback is either Tom Savage, who's objectively awful, or Taysom Hill, who is on their punt coverage team. Like they don't have a backup quarterback there, so maybe that's why it seems like a high price to pay for a backup.
So let's assume that he is staying. Let's just talk about where Teddy fits in with the Saints. You wonder whether he could be a franchise quarterback, given what he came back from, even though they brought Brees in, and he did. He's got leadership. He's got poise. He's got confidence. He's got accuracy. He may not have the skill set, or he's not even close right now to where the talent is of a Drew Brees. But doesn't he have all the fundamental qualities of someone that you want to say, hey, this is a guy we can get behind as long as he stays healthy for the foreseeable future?
I think that Sean Payton has convinced the organization that Teddy Bridgewater would take over when Drew Brees. I think that's why they spent the third round. And, Jenna, you are right. He has all the attributes that you want. He's going to be the first guy there. He is a born leader. Like, he went to a school, you talking about a tough school, Miami Northwestern? Teddy Bridgewater quarterbacked that team and was the team captain. And I'm talking about they got some rough football players. He went to Louisville. Turn that campus, turn that university around. He quarterbacked my Minnesota Vikings. So I know people in the building and the fondness that they have for Teddy Bridgewater. I just saw him 2 days ago at the Jets. The Jets, his teammates, they love him. Yesterday, when he got the news, they were boarding the buses, getting ready to go to Philadelphia. And in communicating with one of the Jets players couldn't be happier for a guy. Because now Teddy Bridgewater, is he going to take over for Drew Brees? I believe he is. Just like Drew Brees took over with that shoulder injury at 27, that's where Teddy Bridgewater would be. So you get him for a third-round pick. You sign him to a...
If they sign him to an extension, if this is a get him in the building and we are going to have an enormous recruiting edge on the rest of the world, then I totally am on board with it.
Where can Teddy go to get a Michael Thomas, an Alvin Kamara?
Play indoors, play in good weather when he's on the road typically. No, listen. Because,
imagine the rivalries. Him, Matty Ice. Him, Jameis, if Jameis stays in Tampa.
If it's a Paul George situation, bring him here. Even though he's only got 1 year left.
Okay.
We will sell him on the culture.
Yes.
And
we will have, because we will have, when the Saints traded up, people in this past year's draft traded away next year's first-round pick to move up, I believe it was to 14. Everyone thought, oh, they're drafting Lamar. I was watching the NFL Network coverage. Mayock, who I think is excellent, basically just started giving the Lamar Jackson scouting report because everyone knew you would only trade that much away to get the heir apparent to Drew Brees. They take a project defensive end, Marcus Davenport, out of UTSA. Everyone is shocked. And folks are looking at it and saying, man, you got a near 40-year-old quarterback with no backup. What's the plan? If the plan now is Teddy, and they believe whether Drew Brees stays or leaves, he will stay with us, we will figure out a way to make it work, then I'm all on board. If he ends up leaving in free agency this offseason, then I think they're going to look back and say, what was the third-round pick for?
And you have to believe there was some semblance of a conversation as far as either between them and Brees, knowing what Brees' plans might be or what Teddy Bridgewater's plans after the year might be, at least in some capacity. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.